Hi everybody. So this week we're gonna start on the new assignment 3, which is rendering. For this we're gonna be using free softwares. First is Revit, second is 3ds Max, and the final one, the rendering engine, is going to be Unreal Engine. So one of the things that I suggested that you guys do is clean up your models, delete your beams, right, and make sure all your walls are like touching, the ground floor, you know, because later it will be a bit hectic, to go and edit that specific geometry and then import it again. Okay. So then, yeah. So by now, if you don't have a site or something, right, and you want to create a site, you just go to your site level, right? You go to massing and site, you pick topo surface, you make sure this is absolute elevation and set to 0. So from here you can just click like maybe like 4 times, right? Then you will have your site. Once you're done with this, you just click finish. Then technically you'll have like a site in your project, right? So you're gonna have something like this, yeah. So I'm just gonna delete this. I'm not gonna use this as a site, right? It's up to you. If you want, you can just leave it, and then we can create a basic site in Unreal Engine. Right, so that one will come later. For now, let's just focus on our geometry. So once you're sure everything is fine in your project, you made your site or you don't want to make your site, is up to you. We can proceed to do one last thing in Revit. So you go to the Manage tab on top. From here, you click on Purged Unused. So this will remove, any extra family that you had in your project, any extra wall, anything that you haven't used. Revit will, just discard it and remove it from this project. So we need to do this to make the project a bit lighter. So once you click on Purge Unused, you'll have this window. You click on Check All, and then from here you will see you will check whatever family you have in your project. So here there'll be a number, right? So my one is 0, so your one might be a different number, maybe 380, any number you have. So you just click check all, and then you click OK, right? So you will clean up the thing. So you might have to do it a few times until this becomes 0. So again, check all, then OK. You do this until that number becomes 0. Once you're done with this, you just go File, Save As. You save this as a new project. Right, you can give it a name. Save it in a folder somewhere. You just give it a name, right? So I'm gonna change my one to 3D test, maybe 2, right? So something like this. I'm gonna save it. Okay, so once the project is saved, you can close your 3ds Max. We are not going to, you can close your Revit. We are not going to use Revit anymore. So from here, you just open your 3ds Max, right? So it's better to close your Revit, make your computer a bit faster. So then once you open 3ds Max, you'll have something like this, right? So to move around in 3ds Max, we usually use the middle mouse tool, okay? So to click, let's say, on this top view, like this window or this front view or any, we just middle mouse. You never click directly because you might click an object in the scene or something. So you just middle mouse, right? You can see. Okay, so basically we're gonna be working in the perspective view, this one. So you middle mouse here, and then you press Alt and W on your keyboard. Alt and W, it will make it full screen. And then if you want to go back to the 4 quad views that we had earlier, you just press Alt W again, right? So if I want to go, let's say, full screen on front view, I'm just going to middle mouse on front, Alt W, right? So now it's a full front screen. But for this project, we're going to be working in perspective. So Alt W. Now you are in the perspective view, okay? So first thing, before we start making some modifications, we import our Revit file. Okay, so we're gonna link the Revit file to 3ds Max. So to do this, you go File, Import, Link Revit. Okay, file, import, link Revit. So you click on link Revit, you pick your file, you browse to where you saved it, you pick the file that you saved. So once you click that one, you just give it some time, right? Depending on your computer, it will read the file. So you just give it some time. Once it does, you're gonna get something like this. Okay, so in here, what you need to do is you need to make sure that you pick your default 3D view. Okay, so default 3D view. Yeah, so you pick your, your default 3D view where you only have your house, and then from here you don't have to change anything else. In here, the preset, you need to make sure that it's set to do not combine entities. This is very important. So if you miss this, you will have to start again. So do not combine entities. Okay, this one. Then you make sure it's your default 3D view. In here, you just click attach file. So again, depending on your computer, it might, be fast, or it might take some time. You just wait for it to load, depending on your project also. Okay, so now once it's imported, you will get a window like this, right? So you can just close this one. Okay, so first thing is you delete the unnecessary things, right? So yeah, let's delete the first unnecessary thing. So you just pick the sun here, this one, right? If you cannot see it, you can change your viewport background, right? So to change your viewport background, you go to default shading, viewport, then you can change this to maybe gradient color, right? So now you can see a bit better what's happening. So if I pick the sun, then I press delete on my keyboard, it's gonna delete. Okay, to rotate around your project, you just press Alt, you hold Alt on your keyboard, and then your middle mouse, you can rotate around the project, right? Works a bit like Revit also. Okay, so you press middle mouse, you can pan, right? You can pan left, right. Mouse up, my mouse wheel up will zoom in, zoom out, right? Same like Revit. Okay, now the next few things that I want to delete in my project, maybe if you have or don't have, is the lighting, right? So I'm just gonna pick lighting. Okay, so I have a few lights, as you can see, these spheres or lights, so I'm just gonna delete the lights. So to do this, I'm just gonna press Alt and then click on this one. So in here, I can select all my lights, I can press delete. So now I don't have the lights. Next thing we can do is we just check the project units, right? So units, you go to customize, then you go to unit setup here, and then from here you make sure you're on millimeters. Okay, change this to millimeters. If it isn't millimeters, then you click OK. And here you can see I have a camera, so I'm gonna delete the camera as well. So in case you have a few, you just select the first one. You can right click, you pick on select similar. So it will select, all the cameras in the scene, then you just press delete on your keyboard. So now it's deleted the camera. So now I'm left with, only the house. So in here, we need to assign something called a UVW map, okay, for textures later in Unreal Engine. So what I do first is I just assign to one, okay, but if you notice that you won't be able to assign until you bind this Revit file to 3ds Max. Okay, so we need to bind this. To bind the project, I'm going to go to File, Reference, Manage Links. Okay, so pick this one. You're gonna find this window again. So in here, I'm just gonna click on Bind. Okay, so once you bind this, any change you will make to Revit later, you cannot bring back here. So you just need to make sure your house is, perfect before you import to 3ds Max and do this step. Once you do this, you're gonna break that link from 3ds Max to Revit. Okay, so you make sure, in case there's issues with your elements, you can always edit them in 3ds Max. If you know how to use 3ds Max, you can edit them, but it's better to just finish it on Revit. Okay, so once you're happy with this, you just click bind. it will give you a warning that you won't be able to make changes or whatever. You just proceed with bind. Once you do, you can see there's no more link files. The file is loaded into the 3ds Max project. So just close this. Now you can go file, save as. You can save a copy of your file, right? So my one is assignment free, so I can always save uh, this project. So just call it 3ds. Sorry, 3ds Max. Okay, so just save a copy of this. Okay, so save the file. Okay, so once you are done saving the file, we're gonna start making the UVW map. So first you can pick any element in your scene, right? So maybe let's say if I pick this stair that I have, I can go to this modifier tab here, and then from here I'm going to load a UVW map. Okay, so click the drop down, scroll all the way, find the UVW map. Okay, so pick this one. In here we want it as a box. Right now it's planar. You can see there's an orange plain kind of thing. We don't want this. We want it as a box. So you pick box. So now the box is based on the size of the geometry. So you can see it already put the size, but we don't want this. We want to set it to 1 meter by 1 meter by 1 meter. So it's 1,000, 1,000, 1,000 millimeters. So now the UV box is set to 1000, 1000, 1000. I can just copy, I can select the geometry. I can copy this UV map, right click on it, select copy. Now in your scene, you select everything. Okay. So once you select everything, you go back here, I'll click on this. You can see it's selected all these things. There's two things that I don't want to be selected, right? This arrow and the first one, because it already has the UVW map. So it was this one. So I press Control, and when I click on the stair, okay, yeah, I think it's, yeah, okay, Control, click on the stair. So I can remove the stair from the selection. Sorry, Shift, select the stair, it will remove the stair. And then I want this coordinate system also unselected. So I'm going to select this. Right, it's the first layer. It's the .ovt file. So you uncheck this one. Then it's going to unselect, this coordinate system. So now you can see everything is selected. If I right click on the modifier tab here in the empty box, I right click. I'm going to click paste instance. Okay, so now it's going to paste that UVW map, the box one, to all the elements in the scene. Again, depending on your computer, it will take some time. My one is 15,581. So it's gonna take a little while to paste all of this to the scene. So you just wait for it. Okay, once it's done, you can see now the textures look a bit messy, but yeah, this will all be fixed in Unreal Engine. Okay. Once you do this, you can save your project again. Control S. Okay, you will save the project. Okay, so now we can start, exporting our project to Unreal Engine. Okay. So by now you should have installed, the DataSmith exporter. So you can see the ribbon here, DataSmith. Okay, in here you just go File, Export. You go to Export. You don't do Export Selected. You pick the first one, Export. Okay, so once you do Export, you browse for where you want to export the DataSmith. So in my case, I'm gonna pick assignment 3. Okay, so in here I'm gonna export all the DataSmith file. So just give it a name. Don't do any space in the name. So maybe you're gonna call it anything house, right? If you want to space, let's say house 1 or something, you don't space, you do underscore, because Unreal Engine doesn't like space. So you just call it house, save it to your location where you want. Okay, next we're gonna start Unreal Engine. So you open your Unreal Engine. Okay, so we're gonna start the Unreal Engine. So I'm going to click on Unreal Engine. Okay, the first time you open Unreal Engine, it might take some time to, compile and stuff. So in here, I'm just gonna pick the architecture tab. You can see there's a few, tabs around, for games and things. So we're just gonna use the architecture one. So you pick the blank one. Okay, in here you give your project a name, right? So I'm gonna call mine house. Then you browse to your save location. Okay, so here you can save your project wherever you want on your computer. So you can browse. I'm just gonna leave mine at default. So I'm gonna click on create. Okay, this process might take some time because it will compile, the shaders. Okay, one thing that you need to do, okay, for Unreal Engine, you need to know that if your card is a ray tracing graphics card or a GTX graphics card, like a normal card, because if not, you will have to disable, ray tracing and all these things. So to check this, you can just go to your tab, your Windows, right? You right click on this NVIDIA, you find GeForce Experience. So you open your GeForce Experience, you just check, your settings. You can see, if your card is a RTX or GTX or whatever it is. Okay, so if it's a GTX, later I'll show how to, disable ray tracing. If you have RTX, you're fine. Okay, so you can close this element. Okay, so in here we're gonna delete a few things before we load our house. Okay, so as you can see, the Unreal Engine, the way it looks, right, it looks a bit empty-ish compared to 3ds Max, but the rendering for it is quite nice. So, and then it's a free software. So yeah, okay, just some basic controls in Unreal Engine. Okay, so if you right click and you hold, you can look left, right. If you press W on your keyboard, it will move forward, but you have to right click and hold your mouse. Okay, so you have to hold the right click. So you right click, hold, and you can move front or back using WASD. Okay, A is left, D is right, S is back, W is forward, Q. If you press Q, it will go down. If you press E, it will go up. Okay, that's basically how you move around Unreal Engine. Okay, so first we're gonna delete this flow that we don't need. So I'm just gonna pick the flow. I'm gonna delete this. Okay. Next, I'm going to open the content drawer. I'm going to dock in layout, so it's here permanently. Okay, you can close it if you want. Then later you can open from here. I'm just gonna dock it, so easier for me. Okay, in here you can see there's a layer tab, right? So in the layer tab, we're gonna delete everything. Okay, we're gonna delete everything except for exponential height fog and sun and sky. So if I pick everything, shift, click everything, I'm just gonna leave exponential height fog and sun and sky. I'm gonna delete the rest. Okay, you can even leave the player start if you want. It's okay. Okay, so in here you just press delete. Now you're gonna be left with something like this. Okay. Next thing is we need to import the datasmith file in this project. So to do this, you come on the quickly add to project drop down. You just click on it. In here you can see datasmith. You go file import. Now you browse to where your project is, where you saved that you exported from 3ds Max, that datasmith file. So you just go and find the datasmith file. In my case is this one. So house, I'm gonna press OK. So now it's asking me to give a location where I want to import this, the house geometry. So I'm gonna right click on this content folder. I'm gonna create a new folder. I'm gonna call this geometry. Okay. You can call it anything. You can call it maybe let's call it datasmith ds import. So we know all our datasmith file is in here. Just call it ds import. Okay, then you press OK. Then OK again. Now it's asking what do I want to import? The lights, the materials, whatever. So I'm just gonna leave geometry on. The rest you don't need to, change anything. So you just click on import. You give it some time depending, again on your computer. So once it's loaded, you can close this window, content browser. Okay. So now you can see the house has imported. Okay, it already has a lighting, but we're gonna change the lighting to a custom one. So just follow along with the steps we're gonna do next. Okay. Next thing is we're gonna start the initial setup, right? So let's fix our levels first. So I'm going to minimize this one, right? This is my house. So I'm going to right click on the main folder. In here I'm going to create a folder. So here this folder I'm going to call it geometry. Okay, so I know all my house things are in there. So in here I can pick the house, drag it, drop it to geometry. Okay, so now that's in here, so I can minimize this. Next thing is we're gonna create another folder called daylight. Okay, daylight, where we're gonna place the exponential height fog and then the sun and sky in there. So in here again, right click the main folder, create folder. I'm gonna call this daylight. Okay, so I know all my other things are in there. Press enter. Once I'm done, I'm gonna move the sun and sky, exponential sun sky in there. So drag and drop in the daylight. Okay, so now that's settled. Okay, so now to correct the lighting. Okay, so we're gonna change our view mode to lighting only. Okay, so change to lighting only. So now you can see how the light is hitting the objects. Okay, now we can move a few things around. Okay, so if you click the sun and sky in your layer panel, right, and then you can set it to what's it called, okay, you can see the sun and sky, right? It's like it consists of a few things. You have all of these elements in it, right? So in here we for now we're not going to move any of this. You can just play around with your time zone and whatever you have. So you can move your longitude and latitude. You can see how the sun is setting. You can adjust all of anything that you want based on the longitude and latitude. So for my one, I'm trying to find like a spot. Okay, this one I'm gonna leave at 45. Maybe change this to 70, and then this one is maybe minus 10. Okay, and then the north offset maybe 217 something. Okay, doesn't seem okay. So because it's showing it's night, so we don't want the night one. Okay, I can always reset the values if you click all of this, right? So yeah, just gonna move it a little bit, so I have some light going into the building. Yeah, maybe something like this. Okay. Okay, so in here now, next thing is we need to pick the directional light. Okay, if you can see at the moment, the shadows, right, they are very like hard shadows. Okay, I want to make the shadows a bit softer. So to do this, you just pick directional light in here. Okay, and then you need to change your source angle, right? So if I increase the source angle, right, it will soften the shadows. Sorry, reset this one, right? You can see it's like softening the shadows. So maybe I'm gonna use maybe like 0.9. Yeah, I think 0.9 is okay. It's not too sharp of a shadow. Okay, maybe a bit less, maybe 0.7. Sorry, this one 0.7. Yeah, maybe a bit more diffused. Somewhere there. Okay, so 1.02. I think that one is fine for me. So if you want to make the shadows a bit uh, more bright, because at the moment it seems a bit dark, some spots are quite dark. So maybe you can change the skylight intensity. So if you click on the skylight here, you see the intensity at the bottom here. If you cannot, you can just type here intensity, right? Intensity. You can increase this intensity just to make the shadow a bit softer, right? So maybe not too much. Maybe I'm gonna set my one. Yeah, I think this is okay already. Okay, so maybe around 15. So yeah, so that's for the skylight. So right now we can start tweaking the lighting. As you know, the light plays a very important part in a project, right? It influences all your material setting, all these things. So next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna change a few things. Okay, we need to. Okay, just give me a minute. Okay, this is done. Okay, so now we need to fix the interior. Let's fix the interior, then we can move on. Right, if I come in, you can see all the geometry, right? Yeah, so I think the lighting inside is okay so far. Let's check the rooms. Okay, it's a bit dark. Okay, so we're gonna need to add something called gloss pack to allow some more light in our project, right? It's just that one material that we're gonna use. Okay, I'm seeing I'm missing one I-beam here. Okay, let me check the figures max. Oh yeah, the I-beam is missing. Okay, that one I can bring in later also, doesn't matter. So yeah, okay. So for now, let's start to adding a gloss material inside the project. So to add a gloss material, what you can do is you can go to the Epic Games, right? You go to Epic Games. Once you're in Epic Games, the next thing you do is you need to sign in, of course. Okay, so what I usually do for the gloss, right? Since we are doing material in another class, so for the gloss one, you can just go to Marketplace. Okay, make sure you're on the Unreal Engine. Go to Marketplace. In here, you download something called a gloss pack. Gloss pack. You just find the gloss pack. Wait, let me see if I can find it. Is this one advanced gloss material pack. So you download it, it will add to your Unreal Engine. Okay, so now once you have this, if you go to library, you will see any of the things that you have for Unreal Engine, they will be in here. So in here you're gonna add the gloss pack to your project. So let me find the gloss pack. Okay, advanced, okay, here, advanced gloss material pack. So if I click add to project, right, it will add to project. Okay, so I add the project, it will ask me which project do I want it to be added to. So you find your project. Okay, my one is called house, so I'm gonna pick this one, add to project. So you just wait for a bit, it will download and it will add to the project. Okay, once you're done with this, you can close this. You can go to Unreal Engine again. In here you can see now you have a folder called advanced gloss pack. So I'm gonna pick this one, pick the materials. I'm gonna pick a clean gloss. Okay, you can see this is a master material, so I'm gonna right click this one. I'm going to create a material instance. Okay, so once you do this, you just need to add an I here, call it MI, and then erase whatever is at the end. Okay, so you're gonna have something like this. Once you're done, you can press enter. Now you can take the gloss, drag it and drop it wherever you have gloss in your project. Right, so you do that for all your project if you want your lighting to come in. Okay, another way of adding the material to the specified object is if you pick the object, right, and then if you come to your material here, you can see element 1. So I'm not sure element 1 is which. Okay, I think it's this one, element 1. Okay, it's not this one, so I can undo. I can press this one, element 0, so it will assign to all the gloss in that thing. But easier is just drag and drop. That's the easiest way you can do. Okay, so you find all the gloss in your project, right? So in here I can add, pick this. Okay, they are all the same, so maybe I can find all the layers in here. Okay, so I know they are all this. Sorry. Okay, this one, change all to gloss. Right, so you find all the gloss in your project, and you can add to everywhere where there's gloss. Okay, you just add your gloss everywhere. In here. Okay, just add. Okay, wherever there's gloss, you just add. So there's one thing we can change in the gloss. Okay, if you can see, this gloss seems fine. Yeah, if you can see, the refraction is a bit off, so maybe you can open the gloss material and then okay, we need to set the pixel density. Okay, let me close this, open the master material, this one. Okay, change this to pixel normal offset, then click on apply. If you minimize this, now you can see that weird refraction kind of thing in the gloss is gone. Okay, so this is settled. For those who don't have ray tracing, you just click on edit, project settings. In here you just type ray tracing. Okay, and then you off this one, use hardware ray tracing when available. You just turn this off. Okay, so that's settled. Okay, I see got one more gloss here. So I'm gonna apply this. Okay, looks good so far. Yeah, now you can see the lighting is like proper. It's a proper lighting. Okay, so now the interior looks fine. Okay, so now let's make some proper exterior changes. If you can see right now, there's a black black end at the house. So first we need to create like a sphere that contains our scene, and then we're gonna apply that material to to that sphere. Okay, So we find something called engine sky folder. Okay, so minimize this, store the content. Okay, in order to get the engine sky folder, if you don't find it in your project, you just need to click on settings here, settings, and then you click on show engine content. This one, you enable this, your content should show. So in here we need to find something called sky sphere. Okay, so if I click on this sky sphere, okay, it's, you know, there's a few, right? So maybe you can pick either one that you want. Maybe we can drag and drop this into the scene just to take a look. Okay, I'm gonna use the blue one, so let me drag and drop the blue one. Okay, so in here we can increase the size of the sphere. If you can see, now there's like a sphere, you know, that contains everything. So what we can do is we can increase the size of the sphere. So make sure your scale is locked here, and then maybe set it to 15. Right, so now you can see the lighting, you know, is a bit already nicer. So now we need to create, you know, new material, right? So just for the sky, it needs a material. So in the content folder, I'm just going to right click here. I'm going to create something called a material folder. Okay, so click on new folder first. Okay, you right click here. Let's call this materials. Now you can open the material folder. Right click, create new material. Okay, so import to games. Okay, in here you want the material. So from here we're gonna give it a name, right? Maybe sky or something. If you want, you know, you can just call it, let's call it HDRI. Okay, I'm gonna open this. Okay, so you're gonna have something like this, right? So in here we need to add a few components, right? Like a few, they are called nodes. Like this is a node, we're gonna create a few more nodes. Okay, the first node we're gonna create is something called a texture sample. So texture sample, you just right click, then you can type texture sample. Okay, so there you can find it, texture sample. You just pick this one. Next is we need to create something called a desaturation node. This will help with the saturation of the sky. Right? So if I pick this, drag and let go, now I can create a desaturation node. Okay, pick the color one. Okay, from here, let's put them here. Next, we need to create something called contrast preserve color. This node will control the contrast, you know, of the sky. So here we're gonna find contrast preserve color. Okay, so once you have this one, from here we need to create a multiply node. Okay, so this one is for the brightness of the sky. So again, multiply, pick the multiply. Now we're gonna plug all of these right into the emissive color. Okay, so emissive color here, so you will get this error. Okay, so the error for now is just telling us that, oh, there's a texture missing that we need to load in order for this graph to work properly, right? So let's add some parameters to these nodes so that later we can control them. Okay, for the multiply one, I'm going to create a parameter. So here, just gonna drag. Okay, I'm going to find a parameter, or what you can do is you can just right click here, right click on it, you create promote parameter. It's easier, so just do this one here, and then in here, as you can see, it's called B at the moment, so I can right click on it, I can rename it if I want. Okay, from here, okay, they removed the rename one, so if I click this, I can rename it from this one. Okay, so for this one, we're gonna call it intensity. Let's go intensity for this one, intensity. That's the first one. So the default value for this one, we're gonna put to 1. Default value change to 1. Okay, so now you can see the default value has changed here. Now same for the contrast, right? We're gonna create a parameter, so I'm gonna right click here, promote to parameter. I'm just gonna drag this. Right, so this one we're gonna call it contrast, so we can just leave it as it is, contrast. So just remove the S here. Okay, then we need to move the, what is it, the desaturation, sorry. So from fraction we just drag to parameter, oh sorry, right click, promote to parameter again. So this, okay, so once you have all of this, okay, this is parameter. Okay, this one we can call it desaturation. Okay, let's call this one desaturation. Okay, so once you're happy with this, okay, so the contrast we set to 1 by default. So this one again will become 1. Okay, so now default value is 1. Okay, we need one last thing called a local position node. So connected to the UV. So from here I can just drag, drop. I'm gonna type local position node. Local position. Okay, pick the coordinates one. Pick this one. So now you have something like this. Okay, so now we need to load the HDRI in this texture sample. To load the HDRI, what I suggest is you go to a website called Polyhaven, right? If you go to Edge or any browser you're using, you can download one from Polyhaven. Okay, you just search for Polyhaven, then you click on the first one, Polyhaven. Okay, so now we need to find HDRI, browse HDRI. So from here you can just pick anyone you want. Okay, so I'm going to find okay, let's see, skies, natural light. Okay, maybe I'm gonna use this one or this one. So I can download both actually. So I'm just gonna open them in a new tab. Okay, you just find one that you like that's not too, overcast. So your scene won't be too dark. So in here you can download 4K or 8K, anything you want. I'll just do it 4K. Okay, so download this. So you just give it a minute. Okay, let me download this one also. Okay, so once you're in here, you just need to load the files in your Unreal Engine. So if I go back to my Unreal Engine, right, I'm just gonna load all these files there. So in here, let me check, open folder, I'm going to pick all of this. Okay, so I can just drag and drop them in Unreal Engine. So in here, okay, find it. Okay, cannot. Okay, so what we're gonna do is I'm just going to save this. Okay, go save on this. Okay, we render. Okay, you just press OK for now. Just save it. You can close this window. Now back here, you just have to drag and drop your HDRI in your project. Okay, so now if you can see, both HDRI are loaded. If I go back to that material that we had, I'm gonna go to the texture sample. Okay, just make this a bit smaller. So let's see, I'm gonna pick this one, and then I press back here. This one. Now you can see the material is assigned, right? So now if I click apply, now I can drag and put this material again just to make sure. Yeah, so we can try the other one if we wanted. So I can just maybe duplicate this HDRI one. So then on this one I can try the other texture. Okay, so let's try the other one. So in in here, press back. Okay, so now if I click apply, this one will change. I can add this to my sky sphere. Okay, it doesn't change much because we need to change this to lit. Okay, so once you change to lit, you can see the difference, but I think I like this one better. Okay, so yeah, so maybe this one. Okay, let's try the difference and see. Okay, not much of a difference, so we'll fix this in a bit. Okay, so next we need to lower the intensity of the sun. Okay, so to lower the intensity of the sun, we go to the sun sky, the first one we had in the first place. Okay, so we just find the sun sky. So I'm just going to minimize this sun sky. In here you find directional light. Okay, set the intensity to maybe 500. Right, just give it a minute. It will load again. Okay, now the sky, looks better. You can see the clouds and all the things. Right. Okay, so I think I'm gonna use this one. I think this one's a bit brighter. Yeah, the clouds are nicer also. So yeah. Yeah, we can do this. Okay. Okay, so we can edit maybe this material a bit, like tweak it a bit. So let me create an instance of this. So create material instance. Okay, HDRI instance. So now I'm going to assign the instance to I'm going to select the sun sky, sorry, the sky sphere, sorry, and then just change to the instance one. So in the instance one, now we have some parameters that we can change, right? So I'm going to on all of this. If you can see, we could, make it like darker so we can get some glare. If you want, you can, even change this one. So I'm going to reset this. Okay, this one is the lighting. So how do you want the lighting? So it's all, your own preference. So if you have, maybe something like this. Yeah, I think this looks nice. Let me see. Yeah, I think this one looks, a bit better. Maybe desaturate a bit. Look a bit better. Yeah, I think this looks nice. Okay, so I have, my sky now. Now the next thing is we need to change the position, right? So that the sun matches, the same angle. So from here we can rotate, right? So if I pick, this one, and then I just rotate that, that sky sphere. So from here we can rotate, right? So if you can see, we can just rotate all of this so that it matches, the lighting. Okay, maybe a bit more to the left. Sorry, not this. Maybe something like this. Right, so that it matches the way the light is hitting the building. So something like this, I think is good. I'm gonna save it. Maybe close this. Right, so now the lighting is ready. Yeah, maybe change the intensity of the skylight to 2.5. Let's see what it gives. Okay, yeah, I think this looks better already. Okay, so once you've adjusted all of this, it's gonna be like this. One more setting that I think we can change just to make it a bit nicer is maybe the cube map to 1024. Okay, this is correct. Just leave it at 124. Sky distance 1. Okay, yeah. I think this looks good already. create, something called a post-process volume that, will control all the lighting and everything in the scene, right? Because right now we don't have a post-process volume. So let's go to quickly add the project, this one, right? So in volumes, we just find something called a post-process volume, this one. So I'm gonna open this. The first thing we gotta do in this one is to change the extents to unbound, right? So you just type extend here and then change it to infinite unbound. So now this box, no matter what the size is working on the whole scene. Okay, so yeah, so I think that's all we can change in this one. Maybe we can change a few more things like bloom and lens flare. So in here you can just type maybe bloom. Okay, you just type bloom. You're gonna find this, so you pick you on the method, you change this to convolution. Okay, now the intensity depends on you, right? Okay, maybe I'm gonna reset it to default. Yeah, I think this is okay. Right, we are getting some like lens flare. Okay, a bit too much. So I'm gonna decrease this to maybe 0.15. Yeah, I think this is good. Looks nice. Okay, this is okay. Next thing we can change is, besides bloom, let's change lens flare. Right, lens flare. Okay, so lens flare, you can on it first, then maybe decrease the intensity, right? So in order to work nicely, we just set it to 0 for now. Later for our rendering, we can just fix everything. As you can see, there's like a smoky kind of thing in the going on in the house. So for this, we just need to change the exponential height fog. Okay, so right now the exponential height fog, we change the value to maybe yeah, I think the stored distance, we just change it to maybe 2000. Yeah, so it gets rid of this haze kind of thing. Let me just check in case. Yeah, it's all gone. Okay, so that's basically it for lighting. Next week, we're gonna get we're gonna assign all the materials. Maybe we change a few things in the post process, lost few more things. So let's change maybe some detail, the lighting quality and all these things. So we find the global illumination here first, right? So find something called global illumination. So you can just type it global. Okay, change the mode to lumen. The lighting detail, you can on all of this. Okay, so this one, let's go to the interior and check how the quality behaves. Right. So you have better idea of how it works. Okay, so I'm gonna change this lighting quality. I'm gonna set it to 2. Right, you can see I have like some buzzing going on somewhere here. Okay, change this to 2. Let's change the scene detail to 4. Okay, this one you change based on your computer hardware, right? If your hardware cannot handle, you just lower everything. Okay, view distance is fine. The final gather we change to 2. Right, okay. Okay, you can change this to 2 or leave it at 1 depending on your computer, right? So I'm gonna change this to 4. Just manually override it to 4. I still see some flickering, if you can tell, on the right, so maybe I'm gonna change this to 6. Right. Yeah, I think this looks way better. So now if you can see, the shadows also look like way nicer. Right, you can see like this dark spot. If I change this, I lower this. Right, you can see all of this. So I'm going to change this maybe to 6. Okay, so yeah, so that's basically it. So then next we're gonna start working on the materials. Good. Okay, thank you guys.